Welcome back to Muscular Brain, Fat Wallet, the channel where we help you build wealth the smart way. Today, we're diving into one of the most popular ways to generate passive income, investing in rental properties. Real estate has created some of the wealthiest people in history, but that doesn't mean it's without risk. In fact, it's easy to make costly mistakes if you're not careful. So, whether you're a first-time investor or you've already dipped your toes in the rental market, this video will highlight the major mistakes to avoid when investing in rental properties. By the end of this video, you'll be armed with the knowledge to avoid these pitfalls and make your property investment journey as smooth and profitable as possible. Before we dive in, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss any of our wealth building tips. Let's get started with mistake number 1, lack of proper research and planning. Section 1, lack of proper research and planning. One of the biggest mistakes new investors make is rushing into buying a property without doing enough research. This can lead to poor decisions that hurt your returns down the line. Let's look at some of the common oversights that fall under poor planning. Not researching the market. Many investors get excited about the idea of owning rental property, but skip one of the most important steps, researching the market. Just because a property looks like a good deal doesn't mean it is. Local market conditions will have a huge impact on the performance of your rental investment. Things like job growth, population trends, and rental demand all influence how much rent you can charge and how likely your property is to appreciate over time. For example, an area experiencing job losses or stagnant economic growth will have fewer people moving in, leading to lower rental demand. Even if the property is priced attractively, it won't generate much income if you struggle to find tenants. This is why it's crucial to thoroughly research the local economy and housing trends before making a purchase. Ignoring neighborhood quality. The property may be in great condition, but if the neighborhood has high crime rates, poor schools, or lacks essential amenities, it can negatively impact both your rental income and long-term appreciation. Good tenants want to live in safe, convenient areas with access to jobs, schools, and services. If the neighborhood doesn't offer these things, you might struggle to attract quality tenants and maintain occupancy. A quick way to gauge neighborhood quality is to look at the local crime rate, school ratings, and access to public transport or major highways. Make sure you visit the neighborhood multiple times, at different hours, to get a true sense of what it's like. Not understanding property taxes. Another mistake is underestimating how much property taxes will eat into your profits. Property taxes can vary widely from location to location, and some areas are known for particularly high rates. It's critical to research property taxes before buying, as these costs will directly impact your net cash flow. For example, buying a property in an area with a high tax rate might look like a good deal based on the purchase price, but when you factor in taxes, your returns could shrink dramatically. Always check the property's tax history and see if there have been recent increases or any upcoming legislation that could affect rates. Failing to plan for future development. You also need to think long-term. Many investors focus on what the neighborhood looks like today, but future development projects, zoning changes, and urban planning can significantly impact property values. A new commercial development nearby could make your property more desirable, while a highway expansion could make it less attractive due to noise and traffic. A good strategy is to check with local city planning departments to see what projects are in the pipeline. This will give you a sense of what the neighborhood might look like 5 to 10 years down the road and help you make a more informed decision. Section 2, overestimating rental income. The next mistake is overestimating how much rent you can charge. It's easy to look at other properties in the area and assume that yours will command similar rents, but this can be a costly error. Unrealistic rent expectations. You may think you can charge top-of-the-market rent for your property, but tenants are smart. They'll compare your unit to other available rentals and will choose the one that offers the best value. If your rent is too high, your property might sit vacant for months, which can quickly erode your profits. Always do a comparative market analysis, CMA, to get a realistic idea of what similar properties are renting for. Be honest about where your property fits in terms of condition, location, and amenities. Overpricing can lead to longer vacancies and lost rental income. Forgetting about vacancy rates. Another common mistake is assuming your property will be rented 100% of the time. Even in strong rental markets, it's unlikely that you'll have a tenant in place 12 months a year, every year. There will be times when the property is vacant, whether due to tenant turnover, repairs, or market conditions. It's a good idea to factor in a vacancy rate when calculating your expected rental income. A typical vacancy rate in a healthy rental market is 5–10%, but this can vary by area. Having realistic expectations will help you budget appropriately and avoid cash flow issues. Not factoring in tenant turnover costs. Tenant turnover is expensive, and many new landlords underestimate the costs associated with it. When a tenant moves out, you'll likely need to spend money on cleaning, repairs, and advertising the property to attract new tenants. There's also the lost rent during the time the unit is vacant. To reduce turnover costs, consider strategies to keep good tenants longer. Keeping rents reasonable and addressing maintenance issues promptly can improve tenant satisfaction, increasing the chances they'll renew their lease. Section 3. Underestimating expenses. Many first-time investors get caught off guard by how much it costs to maintain a rental property. Here are some of the expenses that can quickly eat into your profits if you're not careful. Maintenance and repairs. It's easy to assume that if the property is in good condition when you buy it, you won't need to spend much on repairs. Unfortunately, things break, and unexpected repairs are a fact of life for landlords. Whether it's a plumbing issue, a leaky roof, or a broken appliance, these repairs can be expensive. To protect your bottom line, make sure you have a maintenance budget in place. A good rule of thumb is to set aside 1–2% of the property's value each year for maintenance. This might seem like a lot, but it's much better to be prepared for unexpected expenses than to be caught off guard. Property management fees. Managing a rental property can be a full-time job, and many investors don't have the time or expertise to handle everything themselves. This is where a property management company can help, but it comes at a cost. Most property managers charge between 8–12% of the monthly rental income, and while this might seem like a steep price, it can be worth it if they handle the day-to-day operations and tenant issues. Before hiring a property manager, weigh the pros and cons. If you live far from the property or don't have the time to deal with tenant issues, it might be worth the investment. Insurance costs. Many investors also underestimate the cost of insurance. Landlord insurance is typically more expensive than a standard homeowner's policy because it covers risks that are specific to rental properties, such as liability for tenant injuries and loss of rental income in case of a disaster. In addition to landlord insurance, you may need extra coverage depending on your property's location. For example, properties in flood-prone areas require flood insurance, which can be quite expensive. Make sure you understand your insurance needs and budget accordingly. Unexpected legal and regulatory fees. Lastly, don't forget about legal costs. As a landlord, you'll inevitably face legal issues, whether it's dealing with an eviction, navigating local rental regulations, or addressing tenant disputes. Legal fees can add up quickly, especially if you need to hire a lawyer to represent you in court. Make sure you budget for legal costs and take the time to understand your local rental laws. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, and violating tenant rights can lead to expensive lawsuits and penalties. Section 4. Mismanaging financing and leverage. Another major mistake when investing in rental properties is mismanaging financing and taking on too much leverage. While using other people's money can be a great strategy to grow wealth, it can also amplify your risks if not handled properly. Overleveraging with debt. One of the most common mistakes investors make is overleveraging by taking on too much debt. When you use high levels of leverage, you're essentially borrowing a significant portion of the purchase price, often with the hope that rental income will cover the mortgage and other expenses. While this can work in a rising market, it also leaves you vulnerable if things go wrong. Let's say you've leveraged yourself heavily, and then the market takes a downturn or your property sits vacant longer than expected. Suddenly, your mortgage payments don't stop, but your rental income does. This is where overleveraging can quickly spiral into a financial nightmare. High levels of debt mean higher monthly payments, and if your rental income can't cover those payments, you'll need to dip into your savings or take on more debt to stay afloat. A safer strategy is to aim for moderate leverage. You want enough debt to make the investment worthwhile, but not so much that a small downturn could leave you in a precarious financial situation. Conclusion. That wraps up the first part of our guide on mistakes to avoid when investing in rental properties. We've covered some of the most common pitfalls, from lack of research to overestimating rental income and mismanaging financing. Avoiding these mistakes will put you on a stronger path toward building a profitable real estate portfolio. But we're not done yet. In the second part, we'll dive into the challenges of managing tenants, navigating legal issues, and planning for long-term success. So, make sure you stay tuned for that. It's packed with even more crucial insights that will help you become a smarter, more successful real estate investor. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the second part. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon in part 2.